Welcome to our deep dive into the key events of the Cold War, a period that shaped the modern world. From the ashes of World War II arose two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, locked in an ideological struggle that gripped the globe for nearly half a century. This wasn't a war fought with conventional armies on open battlefields. Instead, it was a shadow war, a chilling dance along the precipice of nuclear annihilation. It was a conflict fought through proxy wars, espionage, and a relentless arms race that cast a long shadow over the lives of billions. The series will explore the intricate web of events that defined the Cold War, from the rise of the Iron Curtain to the fall of the Berlin Wall. We'll examine the key players, the critical decisions, and the ever-present threat of global conflict. We'll delve into the motivations and anxieties of both sides, striving to understand the forces that propelled this era of tension and uncertainty. Join us as we embark on this journey through a defining period of human history, a time that continues to resonate in the geopolitical landscape of the 21st century. We'll witness the delicate balance of power, the brinkmanship, and the moments of both profound fear and unexpected hope. This is the story of the Cold War. The Second World War had barely ended when the world found itself teetering on the brink of another, even more devastating conflict. The development of the atomic bomb, a weapon of unimaginable destructive power, had ushered in a new and terrifying age. The United States, initially the sole possessor of this fearsome technology, soon found its nuclear monopoly challenged by the Soviet Union. The arms race began, a relentless pursuit of ever larger and more sophisticated nuclear arsenals. Each side sought to outdo the other, building vast stockpiles of bombs and missiles capable of obliterating entire cities in a single strike. The world watched, gripped by fear, as the two superpowers amassed enough firepower to destroy civilization many times over. This chilling reality gave rise to the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, or MAD, a grim acronym that reflected the precarious balance of terror. The very idea of MAD was paradoxical. The threat of total annihilation became the only guarantee of peace. It was a strategy based on fear, a gamble that neither side would dare to make the first move. The world held its breath, living under the constant shadow of nuclear war. The nuclear arms race permeated every aspect of life, from international relations to popular culture. The fear of imminent destruction seeped into the collective consciousness, shaping the political discourse and the anxieties of an entire generation. This was a world living on borrowed time, a world defined by the chilling presence of the bomb. The Cold War rivalry extended beyond the Earth's atmosphere, reaching for the stars in a dramatic competition for space supremacy. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, into orbit. This event shocked the world and galvanized the United States, which saw its technological prowess challenged. The space race had begun. Both nations poured vast resources into their space programs, driven by a desire for scientific advancement and, perhaps more importantly, for national prestige. Every launch, every orbit, every spacewalk became a symbolic victory in the broader ideological struggle. The space race was a battle for the hearts and minds of people around the world, a demonstration of each nation's capabilities and ambitions. The Soviet Union achieved a series of early triumphs, including the first human in space, Yuri Gagarin. But the United States, determined to catch up, set its sights on a more ambitious goal, landing a man on the moon. This audacious objective captured the imagination of the world and spurred a period of intense innovation and development. In 1969, Neil Armstrong took his one small step onto the lunar surface, marking a pivotal moment in human history and a resounding triumph for the United States. The moon landing was a testament to human ingenuity and a powerful symbol of American exceptionalism. But even amidst this triumph, the underlying tension of the Cold War remained. The Cold War was a global conflict, fought not only in the halls of power and the laboratories of scientists, but also on distant battlefields in far-flung corners of the world. These proxy wars, fought by client states, often with the direct support of the superpowers, became a tragic and bloody manifestation of the ideological struggle. Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan became arenas for this indirect confrontation, each conflict claiming countless lives and leaving lasting scars. In Korea, a divided nation became the scene of a brutal war that pitted the communist North against the American-backed South. The conflict raged for 3 years, leaving millions dead and the country permanently divided. Vietnam became another tragic theater of the Cold War as the United States intervened to prevent the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. The Vietnam War, a long and costly conflict, deeply divided American society and left a legacy of trauma and loss. Afghanistan became another battleground in the late 1970s as the Soviet Union invaded to support a communist regime. The United States, in turn, provided support to the Mujahideen resistance fighters, further escalating the conflict. These proxy wars, fought far from the capitals of the superpowers, became a devastating and often overlooked aspect of the Cold War. The human cost of these conflicts was immense. Millions perished in the fighting and countless others were displaced from their homes. The proxy wars served as a stark reminder of the global reach of the Cold War and the devastating consequences of ideological confrontation. These conflicts shaped the political landscape of entire regions and continue to resonate in the 21st century. Chapter 4. Brink of Annihilation, the Cuban Missile Crisis. In October 1962, the world held its breath as the United States and the Soviet Union stood on the brink of nuclear war. The discovery of Soviet missile sites in Cuba, just 90 miles from American shores, triggered a 13-day standoff that became known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. The world watched in fear as the two superpowers edged closer to the precipice of a nuclear exchange. President John F. Kennedy imposed a naval blockade on Cuba, demanding the removal of the missiles. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev refused, and the world braced for the worst. The tension was palpable, the stakes impossibly high. For 13 agonizing days, the fate of the world hung in the balance. Behind the scenes, frantic diplomatic efforts were underway. Secret negotiations, back-channel communications, and tense meetings between American and Soviet officials sought a way out of the impasse. The world watched, hoping for a resolution, fearing the unthinkable. Finally, after days of excruciating tension, a deal was reached. The Soviet Union agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba, and the United States pledged not to invade the island. The crisis was averted, but the world had come perilously close to nuclear annihilation. The Cuban Missile Crisis served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the nuclear age. Chapter 5. A thaw in the ice détente. After decades of tension and confrontation, a period of relative calm emerged in the 1970s. Known as détente, this era of easing tensions saw a reduction in the rhetoric of hostility and a willingness to engage in dialogue and negotiation. The superpowers, recognizing the catastrophic potential of nuclear war, began to explore avenues for cooperation and arms control. The Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, or SALT, produced a series of agreements aimed at limiting the growth of nuclear arsenals. These treaties, while not eliminating the threat of nuclear war, represented a significant step towards managing the arms race and reducing the risk of a catastrophic conflict. Détente offered a glimmer of hope in a world long overshadowed by the specter of nuclear annihilation. The Helsinki Accords, signed in 1975, further solidified the spirit of détente. This agreement, which addressed issues of human rights and security cooperation in Europe, marked a turning point in East-West relations. It was a recognition that dialogue and diplomacy, rather than confrontation, could offer a path towards a more stable and peaceful world. Détente, however, was a fragile peace. Underlying tensions remained, and the ideological differences between the superpowers were far from resolved. The era of détente would ultimately prove to be a temporary respite in the ongoing Cold War struggle, a brief period of cooperation amidst a larger narrative of confrontation. Chapter 6. The Wall Crumbles, the End of an Era. The Berlin Wall, a symbol of the Cold War division of Europe, stood for nearly 3 decades as a stark reminder of the ideological divide between East and West. But in 1989, as the Soviet Union's grip on Eastern Europe weakened, the unthinkable happened. The wall came down, marking a pivotal moment in the history of the Cold War and signaling the beginning of the end for the Soviet Empire. The fall of the Berlin Wall was a spontaneous eruption of popular will, a testament to the human desire for freedom and unity. People from both sides of the wall, long separated by concrete and ideology, embraced each other in celebration. The images of jubilant crowds tearing down the wall were broadcast around the world, capturing the euphoria of a moment that seemed to herald a new era. The collapse of the Berlin Wall had a domino effect across Eastern Europe. Communist regimes crumbled, and one by one, nations declared their independence from Soviet control. The Soviet Union itself, weakened by internal pressures and economic stagnation, began to unravel. The Cold War, which had dominated global politics for nearly half a century, was coming to an end. The fall of the Berlin Wall was not just the dismantling of a physical barrier, it was the dismantling of an ideology, a symbol of the ultimate triumph of freedom and democracy over oppression and division. Outro, a world transformed. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the Cold War. From the nuclear arms race to the fall of the Berlin Wall, we've explored the defining events of this pivotal era. The Cold War was a period of profound tension and uncertainty, but it also yielded moments of courage, resilience, and ultimately, hope. The lessons of the Cold War continue to resonate today. The importance of diplomacy, the dangers of unchecked militarism, and the enduring power of the human spirit are all themes that emerge from this complex and multifaceted period of history. As we navigate the challenges of the 21st century, the lessons of the Cold War offer valuable insights and reminders. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more historical insights. We'll continue to explore the past, seeking to understand the forces that have shaped our world and the lessons we can learn from them. Join us as we continue our exploration of history's most compelling stories.